Okay, so we're going to paint some shiny lizard skin here. First thing we need to do is have some lizard skin to paint. So I'm going to do this in Painter. It is very easy to do. What I'll show you here is I've got a paper texture here that's kind of a lizard skin looking texture. It is in a paper library that I have created where I've got a number of different textures that work for me for lizard skin. This one is actually called fish skin, but it's a good one, and so I think I'm going to use it for this quick demo. I've filled a background with kind of a mid-value green. Doesn't really matter what color green you want to use. You can use any color you want. You can use a little more olive. It really doesn't matter too much. So I'm going to go just a little bit darker here. I've got the skin paper selected, and I'm going to be using the variable chalk brush. This brush interacts nicely with paper texture, so I'll hit the B key, turn it to my brush. You can see the ghost image of what this brush looks like, and I'm going to select a value that's a bit darker here, because what I want to do initially and on a new layer is paint some of the background scales. So what I'm doing is essentially painting the scales that are the in-between scales. So if I press harder with this brush, I can paint more. If I press softer, then I can fade it out kind of nicely into a background if I want to. Most of the time I will fade it slightly as I get toward the edge of the object. It just makes blending it in a little bit easier, but you could turn off the pressure and paint everything just as opaque as you wanted. So pretty much it's just a matter of putting some of these background scales down, and then I am going to go ahead and go in here and create a new layer. Got a little heavy there, so let me smooth that out. Create a new layer here, and this is going to be the scales on top of it. So I'm going to select the background color, and I'm going to move the value slider up so that it's lighter than the background color, and I'm going to come up here to the papers, and I'm going to invert the paper texture. So you can see what I've got going here. I've inverted it. Now on a new layer, I'm painting the top of the scales. A really nice way to get some kind of lizardy, reptile-y, fishy, whatever kind of scales you want to use, painted quite easily. Now sometimes you may want to come in and increase the brightness or increase the contrast, decrease the brightness, and you'll notice they get a little bit smaller. So if you want to work with a little bit smaller kind of scales, you can do that. And I'll just basically go over this whole thing. This brush is default. I haven't made any changes up into any of these settings. So very easy to do. And again, you can fade it out in whatever you want to do as far as how you want the scales to look. So you start to get something that looks pretty lizardy here. At least it'll be very good for our purposes. They tend to be a little bit too hard sometimes, depending on the paper I'm using. So I will come into each layer with the scales on it, and I will soften them a little bit. I'm just going to leave it to the default, but as I move in here, you can see the amount of softness, kind of a 3-pixel softness. That's about right. Again, it's really up to personal taste, but I kind of like it that way. I'll do that also with the bottom darker layer. So again, effects and soften, so you can see what's going on here. And then you get a pretty good lizard skin, snake skin, whatever kind of textured skin you would like to have. If you find it a little too soft, you can always come up under and fade it a little bit, 50% fade maybe. And it just really depends on what you want to do. So now we have some lizard skin done, and now we're going to add some shine to it. So to add some glow to this lizard skin, the first thing I'm going to do is come in here and I'm going to select, holding the shift key, these two layers, and I'm going to go ahead and drop those down onto the canvas. So now you can see I've got my scales and my base color, everything on here in one layer. I'm going to switch now and use the glow brush. The glow brush is found under the effects category right here. This is really one of my favorite brushes for doing this kind of thing. Again, it's at the default, other than I've increased the size quite a bit. The glow brush can be really kind of tricky the first time you use it. So what you want to do, let me get it big here again, about 160, that'll probably be good enough, is make sure that when you select the color that you're going to glow with, it is a very dark color. If you do too light a color, it will burn out white like that, which doesn't look very good. So I'll select this dark green kind of in the middle and make some strokes. And you can see how it lightens the area. You can see in a little preview here, it lightens it quite a bit. And if I want kind of a chameleon feel, I'll shift down into here and do a little bit of glow underneath, maybe leaning a little bit more towards some blue. And maybe on the top, I'm going to go a little more orange. And maybe even more. So you can add some interesting, kind of chameleon effects if that's what you would like. If you want, make the brush smaller, so down around 70 here, and you can go just right in the middle and make the middle section glow quite brightly, as you can see here in the preview. That's pretty much how I go about making something glow, especially, lizard or fish skin or something like that. The nice thing is you also change colors a little bit. The last thing I would do is I'd add another layer right here. I'd switch back to the variable chalk brush, which is found in chalks and crayons, and this is the default brush. And I do want to keep it inverted like this because I want to paint on the top. And I might come in here and just add a few little really bright, almost white areas to this. Now I do it again on a new layer, specifically so that I can come in and I can play around with it a little bit. If I get it too opaque, then I of course want to be able to lower the opacity some. I may want to change it to a screen layer, which when it's this light really doesn't make a lot of difference. You can see it adds just a little bit of more bright glow on top of it, as you can see in the preview here. Now, of course, if I was doing this on an actual creature, I would be following the contours of the creature with the brush. But since I'm just kind of doing it on a circle here, you can pretty much do whatever you want with it. You might want to even add an additional layer. I'm just dragging it down below and add some green color here. So while we kind of brought in a chameleon color down here, probably a little darker, but you might want to add a little extra color down here. The possibilities are just endless, and yet you're still able to really get kind of a nice glowing kind of feel in the middle. And so you can see really kind of the whole creative door's open to whatever you want to do. Again, decide if you want to soften those a little bit. Sometimes it's a little better if it's softer, not quite so harsh, so you can see the difference in these ones right in the middle where the hand is. And you can also decide if you want it to be or more opaque or less opaque. So there it is. There's how I would do it in adding a glow, a shine, a sheen to scaled creature, whether it's a fish, a dragon, a sea serpent, whatever it might be. Again, how much you add and what you add is going to be mostly up to you. And as you experiment and try different things, you'll find just the right amount. So I hope that's useful and you're able to use it in your own personal work.